Are the bowling speeds recommended or are they law?
No, they're recommended, there's guidelines, recommended guidelines for greens in Victoria.
So it's a recommendation,
Yes.
it's not laid down in any set of rules that must be...
It's actually set down by World Bowls as the speed of the greens, which has been adopted by Bowls Victoria. And obviously the other thing is, of course, that the green speeds that we play on Saturday are basically those that most of the players want to play bowls under, 13 to 17 seconds. And so that's where the big catch cry is, that where you get the quicker greens, you get complaints, probably more for the grass greens than normal type synthetic. Yes, Neil?
I think that the timing of the green is just a guide for bowlers, and bowlers should generally take note of their trial ends and adjust accordingly. I think the biggest problem that both synthetic and grass have got is the introduction of a new style of bowling. More of a problem than that, because the bowlers want a narrower bowl, and then when they get the narrower bowl, they want quicker greens, so that it turns. They contradict themselves.
Yes.
Perhaps to read more detail, I believe that even in this small session there's been a confusion of numbers, scraps and everything else. What are the bowlers happy with? If you're cut bowlers and the visitors come there, if they're bowling for something they're happy with, that's your answer. It doesn't matter whether it's 17 or 12 or whatever.
And generally it'll be the losers that complain.
I've got a question not on timing or anything, but a question back on maintenance of green instruction. But the drains on our new green are running east-west, and drains on our original green were running on a diagonal. Is there any difference in the way of the laying out of the green in the drains, and is any drainage system better than others?
Fine question, Andrew. I think it's probably to do with the pool.
Because if you're playing east-west and you've got a little ridge, it can upset you whether you're sitting for 7 rinks or 8 rinks or whatever on a particular day, and that's why I'm asking whether that's diagonal, as to whether having drainage on the diagonal is in fact better for playing bowls.
If the drainage system is constructed properly, having straight drains rather than diagonal should be just as effective. They should not be such that they will settle. They should be made so that they don't settle and you don't become aware of them. But otherwise it's the question of the spacing and whether the totality of the area has the ability to be collected and dispersed. And that can be done doing circles or whatever, but the easy way is to do them parallel to one direction or another.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Any other questions? Or yes?
Could you just clarify an issue regarding the watering of a stand infill green during the course of the game? Is that permissible under the rules or not?
Right, afternoon tea it is. Make sure all the players got their bags out of the way, otherwise
it's illegal to water the green because it can change the speed of the green. I was under the impression that it was illegal.
Well, the best answer to that one is to make sure the two managers agree before the start of the game.
Is that required in the rules, though?
Well, even if the opposition manager doesn't agree, it can still happen. Right? Because the home club is the one who really makes the rules as far as play on their greens is concerned. The greenkeeper, he's the one who decides whether in fact they play on the green or they don't. Same thing, obviously somebody's instructing that the green be watered at afternoon tea. Sure, the speed is probably going to change, but if it's agreed that that's going to happen, fine.
Back in the 1990s, there was an official statement that it was okay to water them at afternoon tea. What was happening is that because they were slowing down on a hot day, you could water them to bring them up. And I think it was generally regarded that watering a synthetic was not as the same sort of thing as watering a natural green, which created more hazards, as I understand it, with bulbs. But that was documented back then. Now, whether it's been lost in the mist of time, I don't know. But it makes sense that with a sandfield green, if it's a really hot day and it's starting to slow off because it's drying out at the top, that you water it at afternoon tea, it's probably better for both sides, I would think.
It's also interesting how the last World Bowls held in New Zealand, they were held in 3 separate locations, and the main location had a weed surface rather than a lawn surface, and they actually they flooded the green at 12 o'clock. The other 2 greens weren't flooded, but the main green was flooded at 12 o'clock to preserve the surface more than anything else. So it would stand to reason if you are around to
Could I comment on this? A lot of talk about watering the surface and faces. Now, as Alan said, ours was the first full-size green of this nature in Victoria. And over the 17 years since the first green was put down, I've seen it treated in so many different ways. From initially, the green people were flooding it on Thursday night to Saturday. I went to a session like this, Alan ran on it, and people were talking about contamination problems, and we found out the greens that had the contamination problems were clubs that were flooding it watering 2 or 3 times a week or more. And they were getting mould and mildew and all sorts of things. We've gradually reduced our watering down to the last few years where we've been under drought conditions, and we have not had any special compensation to put water on a synthetic green. We put in a rainwater tank, and we've been buying in a bit of water when we couldn't use the mains. And we have now reduced the amount of water, and what I do now for Pennant, I water at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and I'm running the sprinklers for 3 to 4 minutes. Now we've got 6 overhead lines over the greens, and we have never had to consider watering halfway through the day. I wouldn't think that we've ever had a fluctuation during the day's play of over a second or at the most second and a half. And when you're running at about 15 and a half to 16 and a half, that is not a big difference, because you know darn well, everybody here that's played on fast greens knows there is a bigger difference between 17 and 17 and a half and 15 and 15 and a half, because you don't have that roll-on effect with the heavier green. Talking of mildew and mould, I think it's most important that you spray, and then as soon as your green's dry, then you must groom it and get it off. And we've only ever had to treat, and we treat it as a precaution, we only treat for mould and that roughly 3 to 4 times a year. It's not a big job, and we rarely groom more than once a month.
Thanks, Alison. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, question, Brett Harrison from Trafford. An interesting with the last speaker about the mould. What do you use in the spray?
I'm not into brand names, but we use a product that commonly used to be known by the farmers as Blue Stone, copper sulphate.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Murray Payton, Baker North. Talking about the herbicides and that, and then using the copper sulphate, what other products are available and less toxic than herbicide or tiger?
Well, they're all pretty dear once you get out in the commercial area. Copper sulphate seems to be the answer, although it's supposed to now be toxic to the fish and so on, gets in waterways. I don't know that we've got any ideas on, there's Max, what's that product that got up in New South Wales, or that one you got, or you've got a Brayside or somewhere?
No, we're still checking it. We can forget, but it's rather too expensive.
Yeah.
But why are things too expensive? What's expensive when you're looking at trying to have your best conditions involved? And I don't know what you're talking about with cost, but... No, but I'm just trying to make the point that you may have a material that's very effective and relatively costly compared with a material that is cheaper but not very effective. There was a point made about Kendicide. I'm not sure, it's probably got something in it that you don't want to go down the drainage system, but it is used as a disinfectant in hospitals and things like that.